Hello fellow woodworkers, welcome to this week's edition of the Garage Workshop, and today we're going to be making a dust collection upgrade. Roll the intro. So the first thing I did to create the dust collection system was to remove my shop vac from my existing system. I then used a piece of old scrap plywood I had and marked out the exact size of the shop vac. I actually did two, marked out twice for the size of the tank that I'm going to use to collect the dust. I just brought a food safe airtight plastic tub which matches that colour. You'll see it in a minute. When I draw around the shapes, I just joined the two lines up with a ruler, and then I sort of free-handed a border around the outside to cut off with my jigsaw. I didn't want to get it absolutely accurate. It hasn't got to be perfect. It's going to be on the floor, tucked behind other things, so you're not going to see it really. I think the most important thing was to get a shape where as much as possible it was equal. Excuse the oops there. I must learn to get a belt tighter. So when I'd marked it out, I was happy with the initial design. It came time to cut it with a jigsaw. I'm not massively experienced with a jigsaw. It's probably the tool I use the least amount, if I'm going to be honest. So it was a good opportunity for me to practice. But the first thing I managed to do was get a use of my brand new Parkside plunge saw. And I've only used it twice, and I'm in love with this plunge saw. I've tried another one, a McAllister one, which I was going to do a review of, and then I watched Peter Millard's fantastic review of the two, so I didn't bother, I just junked the footage. But I then managed to do a cut with my brand new plunge saw. Can you tell it's new? It still looks shiny and sparkly. And then when I did that, I got a lovely clean cut. As you can see, I went to work with the jigsaw. The next stage was to mark the hole for the casters. I didn't actually fix the casters at this point because obviously I had things to stick on the top and I wanted to have a nice flat surface on the bottom, but I wanted to mark the casters now, and I just did this by eye. You can see there are some lines roughly marked on the bottom of the piece of wood, and I use them as a guide. So when I'd done that, I offered up the shop vac first of all, and it fitted nicely. And there's the blue tub I bought. A little bit more about this later, but it was really good value, that tub, and the seal on it is fantastic. The next thing I wanted to do was just add a couple of bits of stud timber, just really to keep it in line, because obviously it's going to be on wheels, it's going to move around, and I just wanted to make sure it didn't go anywhere. I chose not to use a brace at this end, like you just see me cut for the other one, because I just thought it was much better if I attached sort of uprights to keep it nice and strong, which as it turned out, it was very strong. The next stage was just to make sure both of them fitted, which they did perfectly. I was very surprised actually, but they went together a treat. Then it was just a case of gluing up the sort of moon-shaped piece that was actually going to hold the shop vac in the opposite end. Really simple, basic construction, you know, I appreciate that, but actually very, very effective, worked really well. So the next thing I did was clamp it all up and make sure that it was a really, really good fit. I bought some new clamps. You can just about sort of see them in the background, some Parkside clamps. I've previously got Aldi clamps, which I think are all right. They tend to slip after a while, but these Parkside ones are much, much better quality, and I got quite a big set for about £5, I think it was. Next thing was to drill the holes for the casters. As you saw earlier, I'd already marked the place that the casters were going to go. Now that everything was stuck down and I was all ready, I didn't have to worry so much about keeping the flat surface. I did have a bit of a decision to make over what screws to use. So in the end, I went for these small self-tapping screws I've got. They're about 18mm, I think they are. But they're really nice. They're just screw fix ones, Turbo Queen or Turbo King or something, but they're really, really good screws, and I've used them on quite a lot of my projects. So I just attached the casters on the bottom just to make sure that the whole thing was nice and level, which it was, and obviously then I was completed with a sort of construction of the wheeled unit, and of course everything else would come from that. It was the first stage to get that unit so I could get all the measurements for the uprights and everything that I was going to do with the final dust collection system. So after that, it was time to move on to the roof. I bought some pipe from Wicks. This is just bog standard drain pipe. I measured it roughly for size, cut it down in my miter saw. My miter saw's got one of those blades that cuts everything. The only thing was, and I'm sure you'll all say if you've done this before, it does leave a lot of sort of shards of bits that have been cut off. It leaves quite a lot on there, which can be a bit disconcerting, but I managed to tidy it all up. So I marked up on the roof where it would go. I just used a little piece of pipe there to get the fixings exactly right. I've had previously bad experiences with these sort of plasterboard screws, but I have to say they worked really, really well on this occasion. I was really pleased, and it kept it in there nice and strong. So I fixed the sort of tube end to the wall first. This is where the dust extraction hose is going to go. Then I attached the other bracket the opposite end, made sure it was nice and level, which it was, and the right angled sort of down elbow, you can just about see it by the bike handlebars there, that fits perfectly flush against the wall, which obviously it will need to do. once I'd anchored the pipe across the ceiling, the next stage was to measure and drop the downpipe in. I had to be very careful here because there are some electric cables sort of all over the place behind the plasterboard. So I just had to be very careful, but I got it on. I deliberately left the pipe overly long because I wasn't sure how high my trolley was going to be and exactly where I wanted it to be. And then the pipe coming across the sort of right angle to that pipe, and this would be where my actual hose, my dust collection hose, would connect. So I popped that into the wall, put the brackets in, had no problem, and here was the finished article. So, as I've said in previous videos, I'm very lucky because I've got access to a 3D printer. So what I did was, I knocked up today 2 rings, and these are very just temporary basic connectors to see if they will actually connect to the dust extractor and to the pipe. I've just got an off-cut of pipe here. If these rings fit and they're a nice seal, it's very airtight, then I'll go ahead and make an adapter that will take this ring from this height to the width of my hose. After I've done this, I'm just going to put on a quick video showing how I design these. I use an online program called Tinkercad, which is free to use. It's absolutely fantastic, and then I put them through the printer. So, moment of truth, let's see if they fit. Okay, so as you can see, that one doesn't fit the pipe, and whenever you're doing anything designing on 3D print, you're always going from, suspected measurements. I measured the outside of that tube, which came to 67, and I made the inside of this ring at 72, but it's probably a good 3 or 4 mil out. So what I'll do is I'll enlarge that tomorrow. Let's have a look and see if this one fits. Again, I think this was 97, and I made it 102. And again, it's literally, I don't know if you can see that, it's literally just a couple of mil out. So I'll probably make that another 3 or 4 mil, and it should then fit on there. And when I'm confident they'll both fit, I'll just do a taper end, and that will allow me to connect a pipe to it. So what it will look like when it's finished, this is the one I made for my band saw. So it's just an adapter. I know you can use, some people use inner tubes. I've seen on videos on YouTube. I watched Keith Brown's, Rag and Bone Brown, his video on doing a homemade dust extraction system, and I know he used inner tubes, but as I said, I've got access to the printer. These work really well. I've got these on quite a few bits, and I've actually got it on my current dust extraction system, and it's worked without a treat. It doesn't let anything out. So I'll make this slightly bigger, and then I'll put an end on it that will fit in the gauge dust collection pipe that I've got. So I'll put the video in now, and then we'll carry on with the project. So very basic Tinkercad drawing. Tinkercad is so easy to use. I hugely recommend it if you've got access to a 3D printer. When I've done that, I put it through the slicer to be printed out on the 3D printer. There's the slicer. Right, 3rd time lucky. So this is the 3rd set I've made. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, tight fit, but you want it to be a tight fit, obviously, because you don't want any air to escape. So that one's perfect. Let's try this one. Yep, little bit loose. I might take half a mil off, but they're good enough. So what I'll do now is actually create the adapter that's going to go into the dust collection tube, which is going to connect up here. So this, right, so just a little update. You would have just seen me test this connector, which is the one going on the inside of the pipe, and this connector, which is going on the outside of the shop vac. But I had a thought about this connector, because the way that these right angled elbows are, there's a sort of ridged area. It's not smooth. The smooth bit goes into the main pipe, and I suddenly thought that's a bit silly, because I'm not going to be able to put an accurate connector that's going to go over the top of that. So if I put a bit of pipe in it, I'll need a connector for that. And then I thought, well, why don't I just join the two together? Because I've got this pipe this huge pipe is the pipe that came with the dust collector, and on two ends you've got the end here which technically speaking goes into the actual shop vac, and this end which plugs into your different tools. It's got loads of different bits attached to it. This one is the perfect size for the thickness of planer. So then I thought, well, if I put that in like that, if I could find a way of connecting this to that, then I would have the setup for the thickness of planer, which is one of the main reasons why this is mainly what this is going to be used for, that and the plunge saw. So then I thought, well, why don't I know this is the wrong way around and this is normally in there, but why don't I just see if I can make a connector that fits on here and fits in there. One of the main considerations is obviously this is heavy, a heavy pipe, so it'd have to be a really tight fit. So what I did was I've essentially pushed these two connectors together into one, because this one fits on here. So this is what I've come up with. I know it looks ugly, I run out of filament halfway through, but in one end it's got a connector that fits here. Now it's not a perfect fit. What I'm going to do is just put some tape around that, because obviously that's an angle and this is flat. I tried to angle that but it just didn't turn out very well. So this does fit on there with a little bit of push, and this connector here I've just put in a little bit of down pipe. Now I've tested this bit obviously, but I haven't tested this bit yet, so this is the first time to see if this fits in there. I've cut it off at what I think is enough, although looking at that I might have to cut it a bit more, but fingers crossed this fits in there and it stays in there and the whole lot doesn't drop on the floor. So let's see if it works. It does, it works. So it goes from there, actually might just need a tiny little bit of tape around the top of that, all the way over to the thickness planer. So that means that this connector now, when it's plugged into the shop vac, will enable me to use this thick dust extraction hose. But I obviously don't want to use this all the time. I also want to be able to use this dust extraction hose, and this is a smaller one which I bought specifically to fit onto my power tools like my plunge saw and things like that. So this also will need to fit in there. So what I'm going to do is just make a multi-changing adapter. So I'll make another adapter that will fit here into there, and then when I want to use this I'll just put that in, connect that to my tool the other end, and when I want to use this I'll just put it in that side, which I think will work best of both worlds. So that connector works. Now the other end I've got to get to work on the actual connector that's going to go into the shop vac, but I'll just have a little bit of a closer look so you can see what I mean. Okay, so we've had about a 2-week delay since the last clip that you just watched, for two reasons really. The first one was I ordered a pipe, a flexible pipe, to go from here into here, and the dimensions looked exactly right, and when I ordered the pipe and the pipe arrived, A, it was too long, it was much longer than it should have been, and it was a little bit too big. It actually covered the whole of that on its own, which obviously I didn't need to do. I didn't really want to do it. So I sent it back and I've got a replacement, a lot smaller. I think this is it's 100mm pipe, I think. I'm pretty sure it is. And it's a much better length. So the plan is, my tub is also here. I can't remember if that was in the last scene or not, but the tub is also here and the Cyclone has also arrived. So my plan now is to create connectors that go from here, so the pipe can then connect from there. It will go up into the top of the Cyclone, which was actually going to be up here. It will be up into the top of the Cyclone, and the pipe from the Cyclone will go out. And then I had a bit of a thought. Rather than using another piece of that pipe to connect the Cyclone to the wall, I thought I could just use a straight down pipe, straight piece of down pipe. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to connect it to the wall using a piece of a down pipe and a sort of bend connector. So I've managed to make some of the pieces that I need. Let me show you first of all. This is the Cyclone. I don't think this was in the last video. I can't remember, to be honest. It's been a couple of weeks. So the Cyclone is here, now ready for the tub. Now the tub I bought, bog standard, I just got it from Amazon. I'll put the links to all of this below. This is actually a food grade tub, and I did that on purpose because I wanted something that would have a really good quality seal, because obviously if it's food standard you can keep food in it without it going off, and the seal on this is really tight. It's actually quite hard to get the ring here, the pull ring, on and off. So this is going to go on here, and that is where it's going to connect into the pipe that's coming down from the wall, the down pipe. And then obviously from the top the pipe will go over and connect like that. But as you can see, we've got quite a variance in all of the different connectors and adapters that I need. So I've been experimenting. I think I've told you in previous videos I'm lucky enough to have access to a 3D printer. So after a couple of trial and errors, I've made a pipe connector that will fit on here and will also fit on the pipe, and it's for the top. So it's quite a tight fit, so it goes on there, and then whoops, and then the pipe fits exactly on the top of the connector. Now, I've deliberately engineered it to be a very tight fit, because obviously I don't want any air escaping. In fact, it's tight enough, I probably don't even need a Jubilee clip, but I will put one on there anyway. So that's the connector from there to there. It's hard to rest it on it here because at the end of it's got a slight bevel to it. So that will go on there, that will go into the wall, and then just the last bit is the connector from here to here. And this is quite difficult because that's actually a really big circumference, and the end of the pipe is not as big. Sorry if you can hear the helicopter going over. That isn't actually as big. So I experimented. It took 3 prints to get this exactly right. Luckily I could use the dimension from the top of that. So I've now got that on there, that connected to there, and obviously this is going to come out like this, and this will now fit, hopefully. I haven't actually tested this yet. It should fit on, yes, it does fit, like so, and then that will go on there, like so. And then the last thing is the connector on this side. Now the connector on this side connects into that fitting there, and then the other end I'm just going to put it into a section of pipe and then connect it into the wall. So this just, it is a tight fit. Now, when I said it fits into there, it does fit. Honest. did tell you it was a good fit. So it now goes into the pipe. So the pipe will go into the wall at this level, it will come out and it will go into the top of the Cyclone. The Cyclone's on top of here, it's connected from here to here to the Hoover, the shop vac, and then we're all good to go. So the next thing I've got to do is to put this, attach the Cyclone, the bottom of the Cyclone, onto the tub, the lid of the tub. So let's do that now. I've just realised doing the sort of voiceover for this is probably the most I've spoken in any of my garage workshop videos. This looks pretty straightforward, this bit, and actually, to be fair, it was. The only issue I had was putting the bolts on. It was actually really tight fit, even though the holes I drilled were the same width as the bolts that I ended up using. But it was a very tight fit to start with. I managed to get it on. I just used a file to clean up the inside and just to get the sort of inner pipe of the Cyclone to fit, which took quite a few goes, as you can see. But I got there in the end, and then it was just a case of drilling in bigger holes, putting the bolts through and fixing them off. I did put a little bit of sort of acoustic sealant in here as well, just to sort of help stick it down, really. So after what felt like an eternity, I managed to get the bolts in, got the heads screwed up, the nuts screwed up, and it looked really good. Next, I test fitted the pipe onto the end, and I used some Jubilee clips to attach that. It was actually a really good fit. It's really nice quality hose. I'll put the link in the description for this, but it's actually really nice quality hose. So when I'd fitted that on, it fitted in absolutely spot on, exactly as I wanted it to, and then I connected the other end to the connector that went into the top of the Cyclone, as you can see here. And again, really nice fit on both sides. The 3D printing obviously came out really nicely, but when I put this in the top and plugged it all together, it actually looked really professional. For the first time, it made me sort of think, oh, you know, this looks really good. As you can see there, I was very pleased with it. Next thing was the test. I then moved on to connecting my now completed dust extraction unit. You'll see a little bit of black sort of electrical tape on there. I just put that on because there's a slight sort of gap or in between the ridge, because obviously the printer doesn't make a perfect circle. So I just put an extra piece of tape on there, offered it up to the wall, got the right line, got my saber tool, my reciprocating tool, which I have got a tool review video on if you've not seen it on my channel, connected all the pipework and put it in, and then surprise, it actually worked. I was so pleased, but it did. And as you can see me testing it here, sucking my face, but as you see me putting my hand on it, in the back look, you can see the clear through pipe is contracting where the air is getting caught on my hand. So I was really pleased with that. Now time for a quick test on my lumberjack thicknesser planer. and I was very pleased to say that everything was sucked up, although it was at this point I thought I'm going to change that black pipe for a smaller one just so I can see the dust going up. But very, very pleased it worked. Very pleased. So overall, very happy with the system that I've put in place. It works, and as you will have seen on the end, I just put a little extra hose and I could use the main hose as a little vacuum, so fantastic. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did, please subscribe if you're not already. Don't forget to like the video and hit the notification bell. I'll catch you next time on another project from the Garage Workshop. Happy woodworking!